is dealing with difficult personalities. This is a topic that comes up a lot. It's definitely in the top 10, possibly the top 5 of topics that I get asked about a lot, whether it's from prospective clients, from current clients, and even from friends and colleagues who know what I do, know who I help, know how I help them. The question sometimes shows up as, hey, I'm dealing with a lot of difficult personalities at work. How do I do this? How do I deal with difficult personalities? But sometimes it shows up differently where it's like, hey, I have a question. Can I pick your brain? I have a question about dealing with my boss or relating to my boss or connecting with my boss because he just seems like he's from another planet. We're just talking past each other. I feel like we're sometimes talking different languages and I just can't relate to him, can't get him to see my way, and I'm just not sure how to do it. Right? So it can show up that way where there might be like one particular person, one particular group of people or kind of people with a particular personality style, let's say, or behavioral style, where you just can't seem to connect in the way that you do with other people. So that's the problem. And while, you know what, sometimes it is just kind of a one-off, it's a surface level problem, and it's really just about dialing in your ability to connect with that one person or that one type of person, it's usually not that simple. And it's usually not just like about that one thing, because while about that ability to connect with difficult personalities, because this is a very pervasive problem that has effects beyond just your relationship with that one person. Because what happens is we get really good at relating to people who are like us, who are exactly like us, who are similar to us. And we can connect with them and it's great. And we're able to influence them, as leaders. And it's wonderful. But when it comes to relating to other people, influencing other people with different personalities, different behavioral styles, different backgrounds, different beliefs, we can have trouble with that. And so if you're not able to do that, you're not able to influence as many people as you can possibly influence. And so if you can't learn how to deal with difficult personalities, if you can't learn how to connect with people across a range of different personalities, behavioral styles, backgrounds, you're limiting the amount of impact that you can potentially have. Because that's ultimately what this is about. This is about influencing, and it's about having that impact on people. And so while it might show up like where we have our triggers, right? Like this is what you might be dealing with right now, right? Where we have particular triggers where, for example, you might be triggered by people who are late for meetings. There's certain personalities, certain behavioral styles that tend to be later, not punctual, right? And so you might notice, this is kind of a smaller thing, a lighter thing. You might notice that you react negatively when people are late for meetings. Like you might get irritated, frustrated. You're really mad at them. Like, why can't you just be late? Or why can't you just be on time? Why are you always late? And it can show up like that. And then something heavier, right? It might show up like, I can't connect with my boss, right? And my boss is not recognizing my wins. My boss just doesn't know how to give me a pat on the back, doesn't know how to say thank you, doesn't know how to say great job. And that I can't connect with him in that way. And it's really just driving me bonkers. Or maybe particular kinds of people. You might say, oh man, you might be an introvert. I can't relate to extroverts. I don't understand. Like, I can't talk with them. I don't understand where they're coming from. They want to chit chat, and I'm like, can't we talk about the heavier stuff? Right? Can't we get to the point? They want to chit chat about the weather, and I'm like, why can't we talk about something more meaningful than that? Or maybe if you're an extrovert, you're like, man, why are introverts so mean? Why don't they want to talk? Why are they all on their hands all the time? Right? And so this is the way that it might be showing up in your world, where it's like, there's certain kinds of people that I just can't relate to. I can't get to talk, or they talk too much, or they're late, or they make promises and they can't keep them, or they're so disorganized, or they're too organized. They're not like me. I can't relate to them. And so this is how it shows up. And if you don't fix that, if you're not able to really increase your sphere of influence by being able to connect with people of lots of different personalities and behavioral styles, you are limiting the amount of impact, the amount of change that you're able to have on people, because your sphere of influence is simply people like me. And if you're only able to influence people like me, you're not going to upgrade your career. You're not going to be able to get into the higher levels of leadership. You're not going to be able to earn more money because you're not adding more value. So that's why this is a really pervasive problem, and it's much bigger than just, I can't deal with difficult personalities. Because your inability to do that is definitely having an effect on your career. And it very well could be the main reason why you're stuck right now, why you haven't gotten promoted, why you haven't earned more than a 10% raise in the last 5 or 10 years, is your inability to relate to people with different personalities, different behavioral styles. But on the other side of this, when you get this, when you upgrade this skill, and it is a skill, by the way, when you upgrade this skill to be able to increase your sphere of influence to lots of different kinds of people, then you're able to have more of an impact. And it's fun, and you're able to do it with less energy. It doesn't feel draining anymore. It's not like a trigger. It's not like, oh man, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe she's doing that. Why can't the people in sales and product just kind of relate to engineering for once? It's not like that. It's like, wow, let's do this, people. Let's work together to make this happen. And you're making more of an impact, and you're going to get recognized more because more people are recognizing, are seeing the value that you're adding, because you're showing up differently. You're able to connect with more and different kinds of people. And so that means you're able to make more and better changes at work, for the company you work for your organization, for the tech industry. And you're able to make more, better, positive changes in your life as well. You're going to be earning more money because you're adding more value, and that means more freedom in your life. It also means more time, because in the past, where it may have taken like several 2-hour meetings to influence someone or a group of people, especially if they're different than you, when you really dial in your skill of being able to increase your sphere of influence and deal with all different kinds of personalities, one 15-minute meeting and it's done. And you're able to influence them and connect with them and make that impact on a higher level quicker. So that's why this is so important to talk about, connecting with people with different personalities, different behavioral styles. So I'm going to talk more about it. We'll talk about this whole week in this video and on Wednesday's video and in the articles that I post this week. But what I want to talk about today is really just the one major shift. What is one major shift that you can make that's going to put you in the driver's seat of being able to influence more people, of being able to connect with people, even in the prickliest, stickiest of personality clashing kind of situations? The one shift that you can make. And this is about putting yourself in the driver's seat, putting yourself in control of this. And before I share the shift, I want to explain where this is coming from. Because the way that this usually shows up, I can't deal with difficult personalities. It's too annoying. I don't understand them. Is we fall into blame and shame and judgment. Well, this person is late to meetings all the time. I can't understand it. Certain personality type or certain kinds of people, they're just late to meetings. I don't get it. Why can't they just be on time? How hard is it to be on time? Don't they get that they're hurting other people and wasting other people's time by being late to meetings? It would just be so much better, so much easier if they were just on time. That's how I would feel better about this. I would feel better and I wouldn't get irritated if they just change their behavior, completely change their personality. See, I'm kind of making this silly now. If they just completely change their personality and change their behavioral style and we're on time. We blame and shame and we put it on the other person to change and to be completely different than they are. To use the other example, why can't my boss just recognize me? I don't get it. It's wrong that he's not recognizing me. I'm putting in a lot of hard work, a lot of hard hours here. Can't he just say thank you? I don't even need a pat on the back. I don't need a public recognition, although that would be great too. Why can't my boss just say thank you? Why can't my boss just say, you've done a great job? Well, he can't do it. Like, it's so wrong that he's not doing that. He's not doing it with me. He's not doing it with other people either. Like, all he has to do is just completely change his behavioral style. It would be better if he just acted differently. If he changed, then I'd be great. And so what we tend to do, and I'm kind of making it bigger and poking a little bit of fun at it, just to kind of see, to show you what we do. And we all do this, right? I would feel better if you changed. I would feel better if you became a completely different person. And so you see what we're doing is we're blaming, we're shaming, we're making the other person wrong for being them. And in order for me to feel better, not frustrated, not tearing my hair out, you need to change. That's a recipe for disaster. That is a recipe for losing. Because you're not in the driver's seat there. You're not in control. So here's the shift. The shift, in order to help you deal with difficult personalities, to help you increase your sphere of influence so you can have more of an impact, get recognized for that, and upgrade your career. The one shift here is to realize, to recognize, to appreciate that we cannot control other people. All we can control is ourselves. We cannot control other people. All we can control is ourselves. We can't control what other people do, say, believe, decide. That's on them, ultimately. But guess what? We do have control. We get to choose how we behave. We get to choose how we decide, how we act. We get to choose our own beliefs. We get to choose how we show up and respond in situations. We get to choose what we think about certain situations and how we feel about certain situations. That's empowering. That puts you in the driver's seat here. That's the shift. Appreciate that you cannot control other people. What you can control is yourself, your own beliefs, your own actions, how you show up, how you feel. You get to control all of that. That's the major shift. That's the shift that I invite you to make, is to appreciate that. And there's a mini shift. There's another distinction within that distinction, which is, while we cannot control other people, we absolutely positively can influence them. And you may be wondering, what's the difference? What's the difference between controlling someone else, which we cannot do, and influencing them, which we absolutely can? Because ultimately, this is a conversation about influence, right? Questions about how do I deal with difficult personalities? How do I relate to my boss better and my colleagues better? How do I connect with them on a higher level? I don't understand them. How can I understand them? And it's really a conversation about influencing. It's about connection, but really it's about influencing. Because that frustration is coming from a place like, oh, I can't deal with difficult personalities. The frustration, the irritation, the anger, whatever else you might be feeling about it is coming from the place of not being able to influence other people. That's where it's coming from. So it's understanding the difference between controlling other people and influencing other people. And this is where it helps to appreciate and understand what it means to influence and what it doesn't mean to influence. Because ultimately, when I say we don't have control over other people, we don't have control over the outcome. We don't have control over how they act, what they decide, how they believe, how they feel. That's on them. That's the outcome. Influencing means I have an outcome in mind. So when I try to control someone else, it means I'm trying to control the outcome. It means I'm trying to make someone believe, think, decide, feel differently. That's not going to work. You're playing a losing game there every single time. So that's what we can't do. What we can do is we can influence. We have an outcome in mind. For example, I want to get this person to see that being late is hurting other people. I want to get this person to behave differently and be more on time. That would be the desired outcome of my influencing. But when we're influencing, it's about being detached from that outcome, having that outcome in mind, but being detached from that outcome and saying, when I'm influencing, I am creating this space through my words, through my connection with that person. My influencing means creating this space for that person to decide to make a change. Ultimately, what that person decides is on them, and you can't control that. But as long as I've created that space with empathy, with caring, with concern, with competence, and we're going to talk more about that the rest of the week and on Wednesday's video, particularly about empathy. As long as I've created that space, I've done all that I could do. That's influence, is creating that space for change. Whether or not that person decides to change and comes to meetings on time, or if we're talking about the boss situation where the outcome could be, I want to get my boss to see, to believe, and to behave differently such that he recognizes people, including me, more often. So it's about having a conversation or possibly a series of conversations with that person, with that outcome in mind, with caring, with love, with empathy, with confidence and competence too. And as long as I've done that and done everything that I can, ultimately it's the boss's decision. Ultimately it's the late person's decision. So that's the difference. Influencing means having that Zen-like detachment from the outcome because we can't control other people, but showing up in a way where we're creating that space for the possibility to change. Sometimes it takes one conversation, sometimes it takes multiple conversations, depending on the situation. And you know what? Depending on the situation, sometimes people choose never to change. And instead of reacting to that with frustration and judgment and blaming and shaming, we recognize it, we appreciate it, that they're human too, and they get to choose how they behave. And reminding ourselves, hey, you know what? I get to choose how I behave too. What I think, what I believe, how I feel. I get to choose that. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty freaking awesome to have that power to be able to do that. So that's what I invite you all to do, is to really take a look at how you're influencing your sphere of influence and to make that shift from, I want to control other people, why can't they just be different, to, I can't control other people. What I can do is I can control myself and I can influence other people. So that's the shift that I invite you to make. And if you want to talk about how to specifically implement this shift at your work, with your team, with your boss, with your late meeting people, so that you can finally get recognized and make more of an impact, command a salary of at least $200K a year, if that's what you're going for and you want to transform your career using this increased power of influence, this increased sphere of influence power, and you want to talk about how specifically to implement that in your career, it's time to book a call with us, thepeoplestack.com/book. So go ahead, book that call with us today, and we'll get you on track toward increasing your sphere of influence, increasing the impact that you're making, and increasing the freedom that you have in your life, the joy that you bring to your life. And as a beautiful byproduct of that, you're going to get recognized for that, and you're going to have way more money, way more time than you even know what to do with. That's the beautiful byproduct of all of the impact that we're having. So go ahead and book a call, thepeoplestack.com/book. That's it for the day. We'll talk more about influencing, dealing with people who are different than us, particularly within the realm of being more empathetic. We're going to talk about empathy on the next show. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Take care, folks. Talk to you later.